Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David Stelzer. I'm the Global Director of Unreal Engine Games Business. So I look after the whole vertical of games, and specifically for the Unreal Engine. And this is my very first trip to India, so I'm super happy to be here. I'm really glad to see a full room. I've been in and out throughout the day, and it's been great to see such a large community of people very interested in Unreal Engine. I'm going to be giving a bit of a talk on the roadmap as we've gotten into Unreal Engine 5, what you can expect from 5.1, and moving forward into the future. Because I've never been here before and because we have such a good crowd, I need to get a selfie with everybody first. So everybody say Unreal Engine. All right. Make sure we get that posted. All right, so we've got the UE5 development timeline. So what we're going to start with here is the planning for what's coming forward. So obviously we released UE5 last April. And now if you've been using UE4, this would be the best time for you to upgrade. If you're planning on shipping anytime from mid-2023 and on, even when using no new UE5 features, UE5 will be getting the bugs fixed and the support that you need so that your project will be successful should you want to make that move. And what we're really going to talk about here is that 5.1 is coming out in the fall of this year. We call it internally a fit and finish release with many bug fixes across the board, alongside a heavy push for Nanite and Lumen. And Nanite and Lumen are the real stellar features of what makes UE5 so special. Nanite gives you that billion polygons rendered beautifully on the screen, and Lumen is our new global illumination system. And what we're looking at for 5.1 is this push for new, Nanite and Lumen to perform and getting it running at 60 hertz for Fortnite stylistic type of content, and it will just get better and better from there on. So we think that 2 releases per year are on the low side of what we plan for moving forward into UE5, with many features that licensees want being tied up behind release and forcing folks to run, close to our perforce and Git. Next year, we're looking to increase the frequency of our releases. So while this will be the first release coming since April, as we said, you can expect a little bit more of a cadence. It won't quite be like it was towards the end of UE4, but you will see more and more improvements coming to UE5. And once again, I hit the wrong button. Okay, there we go. All right, so with our new generation of Unreal technology, we've identified these things as the pillars that you see here on screen. We have a leap in fidelity with better iteration speeds to build ever larger games across our platforms. What you will see with future point releases for UE5 is we will keep expanding on these areas and expanding the breadth and quality of performance. So what you're going to see here is that generational leap in fidelity. Everything will be in real time, and you'll have tools that will empower the teams of all sizes to build bigger games with content that scales. And that's kind of one of the main things that we feel is the real benefit of the engine, is especially when you're working with these small teams, it gives you that ability to feel like you're a much larger team. Some of the things that really showcase that, if anybody was able to play around with the Matrix demo that we did for the PlayStation, that gives you a real example of building large worlds and things of that nature. We heard earlier talks about being able to use the engine with Houdini. Those types of things together allow very small teams to do very large projects that look AAA, even though you're coming from a very small team. So we're going to continue growing the features in that way. So what are these key features that we keep talking about? So the first thing with Nanite, it's a new virtualized, I'm going to give the official definition that comes from our engineers. I'm a business person, so excuse me if it sounds a little robotic, and also I've got massive jet lag right now. So Nanite is a new virtualized micro-polygon geometry for static meshes. It's a mouthful. Freedom to create hugely detailed meshes and freedom to have massive numbers of draw calls without having to manually optimize your LODs. Lumen is the new fully dynamic global illumination and reflection solution that immediately reacts to scene and light changes. The system renders diffuse interreflection with infinite bounces, and indirect specular reflections in huge detailed environments. The key thing is that it's dynamic, with lights changing with time of day that make the scene look beautiful in any setting. And one of our other big features is open world. One of the complaints in the past has been that Unreal Engine is not the best engine for big open worlds. Well, we're fixing that. We've got world partition. This is our new data management and streaming system. It's like building one big map. You don't have to manage multiple levels. The engine takes care of slicing it up for editing and streaming and creating your LODs for distance. New improvements to animation. You can author incredibly detailed characters in dynamic real-time environments with Unreal Engine 5's powerful animation toolset. Working in context, you can iterate faster and more accurately without the need for time-consuming round-tripping. Artist-friendly tools like Control Rig let you create rigs and share them across multiple characters, animate them in Sequencer, and easily create natural movement with the new full-body IK solver. Another new area in sound, we've got meta sounds. For anybody who's been using the sound engine native, you've got Unreal Engine 5 introducing MetaSounds, a new high-performance audio system that enables sound designers to have complete control over the audio DSP graph generation of sound sources, plus it makes it easier to link sounds to your game events. And lastly here, the dev iteration, an enhanced editor UI, and iteration improvements that help distributed teams. One of the things that we have realized and one of the things that developers have been asking for, especially since the pandemic, we have so many distributed teams and so many people working remotely in many different areas that the dev iteration will definitely help with this. So digging in a little deeper here with Nanite, the primary focus for Nanite for 5.1 is the addition of programmable rasterization framework. This will open the door to features such as masked materials, two-sided materials, pixel depth offset, and world position offset. We know that Nanite doesn't really support foliage well right now, but we're working on that. You're going to see incremental features that come out of that effort, and we're working on some of the other difficult problems right now. A true JustWorks implementation of foliage for Nanite is a ways out, still requires some serious R&D on our part, but hopefully we'll have better support and workarounds soon, but even that is speculative. I can say from being on the sales side and looking forward to this is another thing that's been asked for with the foliage, and I've seen some work that's been moving forward on that in the R&D. When they get that up and running the way that it's supposed to be and at an epic standard, it's going to be amazing. So some key points here to think about. You've got programmable raster and WPO, Nanite landscape. You got many performance improvements that are here in 5.1, and a multi-view split-screen VR support TD. Okay, now on to Lumen. After consistent licensee feedback on Lumen, we've made a big push with 5.1 to get Lumen capable of running at 60 Hertz for games on next-generation consoles such as the Xbox SX and the PlayStation, and capable PCs. On other platforms, it'll run at the current detail and lighting modes. Improvements will come over time. Fortnite is planning to release Nanite and Lumen and VSM enabled by this Christmas, which is a big deal, and target 60 Hertz as well. So that is our hard driver to help deliver for this. And as anybody who's been developing in UE understands, as things come into Fortnite, those things make their way into the engine pretty rapidly. We dog food pretty much everything that goes into the engine, and a lot of that goes through Fortnite. So once things get up and running well in Fortnite, you know that they're going to work when they make their way to the engine. There's a lot of optimizations here and fidelity tuning that's going to be done to realize all of this. The overall quality is a bit less than full and slower in detail mode, but the overall results are good for all sorts of action games. And then as we talked about building open worlds, another big area of ask that we've had from folks to be able to perform in the way that larger studios do. So with 5.1, we've worked on a lot of usability improvements to the open world tooling. Here's a few of those callouts. We've got editing with regions inside the editor now, as well as improving the workflow around the one file per actor together with source control to make it more manageable with teams working together. We've added full support for content plugins used within world partition levels, automatic streaming through the world streaming grid, including level instances and data layers activation, And it will now support content associated with a plugin, which is great. Metasounds. With Metasounds, we brought full procedural audio alongside sample accuracy to UE 5.0. We're happy to see more and more licensees using this for actual production rather than just in prototyping, and we're using their feedback to improve the tooling. With 5.1, we're expanding some of the usability by adding more node types to the library, showing feedback in the real-time node connections, and support various multi-channel output formats. We also introduce a bunch of new plugins that can help with procedural ambient sounds and to easily drive interactive music. So those key points here is that there's audio usage telemetry, and there's new integrations with audio buses, quartz, and MIDI files. And if anybody out here is truly into the audio side of things, our audio team just got back from an audio summit, much like this, an audio dev day. That I will check into, but you check back through unrealengine.com and through the Creator Hub. They may be posting videos from that particular workshop, but the audio team is doing a tremendous amount of work, and the improvements that they're making to the audio side are just amazing. All right, so animating in Unreal. We've been making a big push on building pretty extensive animation tools inside of UE to reduce round-tripping time lost in the creative process and to see more results in context easier. We're seeing more and more licensees staying in UE more of the time, as well as we've started to use our own internal productions. This is key to get feedback from animators to make use of features that become world-class. Please talk with our animation devs during the various sessions. If you've seen anybody here, there was an earlier session where one of the developers here locally was actually talking about staying inside of the editor more, building more of their animations, and running them through Sequencer. That's kind of what's being talked about here. One of our animators has also added a note here that I'll read out, but rather than only focusing on feature development, we've been putting a great deal of effort in considering how an animator uses the tools. By ensuring the essential workflows animators rely on are considered from the beginning, we're seeing artists begin to author amazing content directly in context. Feedback is critical to building these tools for the artists. We are actively dogfooding our tools in our internal projects, such as Fortnite, and listening closely to feedback from our licensees. So again, this is to allow you to do more of that work inside the editor without having to move to external tools. Next, we'll talk about some motion matching. This is another big thing that'll be in 5.1, and as we're looking out towards 5.2, we've been working on developing a solid motion matching solution for 5.1 and beyond. Currently, we see this getting production ready, not so much by 5.1, but more by 5.2. Part of the areas we've been focusing on here is to make it more of an artist-centric authoring tool with good debugging workflows so that the artist can understand how and why the system chooses the animations. Then we've looked at and tested with various data sets ranging from size and are using that to make sure that the system behaves the way it's supposed to through various densities. Some other key points here to call out is the authoring tool with artist-centric workflows for motion matching, the solid debugging workflow, comprehensive set of tools for understanding how and why the system is choosing what it selects, more optimizations coming, and forward-facing strafe support, which supports multiple layers of locomotion setups, high and low density content support, which is usable with both large and small data sets. Okay, so onto rigging. Control Rig, which is an amazing feature. If folks haven't been using it, highly recommend it. Control Rig has been one of the key technologies we've introduced in our animation tools. We're now adding procedural rigging, so it's much more powerful to generate rig hierarchies for different characters. We add support beyond just the basics with seamless inverse kinematics and forward kinematic support. Beyond 5.1, modular rigging will be expert capabilities to non-experts. So we can see modular rigs that can be applied simply to create animation-ready characters, which is awesome. Some key points here, again, production-ready rigs are already here. If you've been playing around with MetaHumans, there are great examples in there about how those rigs can support high-quality characters. And we've got support beyond the basics of the normal IK, FK, etc. Features like IK, FK are just the beginning. CR can simulate, or control rug can simulate, react, and integrate with the rest of the scene. It's very fast, scalable, and works for all sizes of production. And after 5.1, modular rigging will bring expert capabilities to non-experts. Ex-senior riggers can make character parts, modules like arms and legs, that junior artists can stitch together into unique, high-quality rigs. And deformers are coming. So deformers enable users to create complex shapes and behaviors on skeletal meshes, such as muscles, exaggerated cartoony characters, and skin sliding. We feel deformers are essential to get high-end and polished performance. With the yet experimental ML deformer, we bring high-quality deformation onto runtime rigs in UE. After 5.1 and beyond that, so skeleton creation and skinning in UE will allow TDs and animators to work together 100% in UE. With key points here being to acknowledge that deformers are essential to a polished performance. It's still an experimental beta, but a primary focus of the team. The ML deformer brings high-quality deformation onto runtime rigs in UE. And skeleton creation and skinning in UE will allow TDs and animators to work together 100% in UE. More improvements coming here to character physics. UE has a suite of physics tools for characters. They're being expanded to add film-like simulation features, actively developed to be fast and art directable. With 5.1, we've added a number of improvements to Chaos Cloth. Next to air pressure, we also have a lot of quality fixes, including new documentation and tutorials to help learn how to set up. It's been one of the areas that we've been trying to improve is that documentation. And I think starting with 5.1 and beyond, you'll see those documentation improvements for sure. And then next, we're doing some early R&D in a few areas to improve fidelity ever further, as we'll be adding options to bake sims down for determinism and for efficiency. On developer iteration, we have a few areas of improvement here. With games assets ever growing, we have a continuous initiative to keep iteration times in check. We look at cloud computing and caching as key parts of making things faster. Virtual assets reduces content footprint by up to 10x, resulting in smaller workspaces and faster syncs. Zen architecture provides quicker access to data, delivering significantly faster iteration times with play in editor or play on target platform. And Horde settings deliver efficient sharing and global replication of built data using cloud-based technology, so you can leverage work already done by your team or other team members anywhere in the world. With some of the underlying tech cook efficiency work in 5.1, we're seeing almost a 40% reduction in build farm cook duration for build machine scenario and in Fortnite. Cold local cache, hot shared cache, etc. And you'll start seeing these improvements coming out in September. Well, they've already started coming out, I should say, as of September 2022 with the preview. For a framework, notably in the gameplay framework, we have updates with Unreal 5.1, which include smart objects to create contextual metadata inside of the world and have AI reason with them. State trees as a newly imagined state machine that's more optimized for memory. Enhanced input becomes production ready. This system is used for input handling within Lyra, if you've been using the Lyra sample project already. And some other things here, we've got modular gameplay effects, which are now production ready, and debugging capabilities have been improved through the ability system. On the framework side, we have Mass Entity, which is a framework for data-oriented calculations available in Unreal 5. Mass Entity will become production ready with the UE 5.1. This release will bring UX improvements as well as CPU performance gains and memory usage optimizations. The major change here is the automatic multi-threaded execution of the Mass Entity processors. And a feature called Iris, which is a refactor of the old and somewhat inefficient replication system within Unreal to make it more scalable and maintainable. We're using the Lyra sample as the test bed for this, and we're doing various tests also in Fortnite. And one of the last things here is the geometry tools. In the geometry tools, we've got geometry script plugin, which has a lot more features exposed. So it's much more powerful to use than it's been in the past. Managing UVs can be challenging, even on a simple asset, but it is even more difficult on many hero assets. The additional features and workflows added to the release will extend the usability of the UV editor to more complex VFX-style assets. The modeling mode is a powerful and extensive suite of tools for creating and editing meshes directly in Unreal Engine, and we're currently working on improving the user experience and making workflows more efficient. Okay, so anybody who's interested in going deeper into this roadmap, I understand I'm kind of blazing through it because we don't have a ton of time here, but we use something called Product Board, and we use that to announce our features and collect feedback from licensees and users on those features. We do read the votes and we read the feedback and see this as a way to get some data back on our plans in advance of our releases. We plan to extend the horizon of our roadmaps towards future releases, so there can always be an overview of what's coming directionally without perhaps pegging to hard releases. If anybody's taken a look at Product Board, you'll see that we do have a very short time frame of our roadmap. People always ask us, oh, this must be your outward-facing roadmap. What does your internal roadmap look like? This is it. Planning is fairly fluid. We look at things that are needed from Fortnite. We also take this feedback very seriously. A big part of the job that I sit in is to get the voice of the customer and make sure that that voice of the customer gets to the product team. And based on kind of what we're seeing as the trends within the industry, what kind of patterns we see that are the requests that come, these are the types of things that start to make their way into the product. And that's all I've got for you today. Appreciate everybody's time. I hope that the Dev Day today was extremely enlightening for everybody. I hope that people were able to attend multiple sessions here. I'll be up here for a little bit in the room if people have some questions. I know that we're going to break in just a moment for some coffee and tea. Again, we've got some technical folks who can probably go a little bit deeper into this. If you've got any questions around Unreal Engine as a business or any licensing issues or how do we work from back at headquarters with developers out in the worldwide market, please feel free to come and chat with me. I'm happy to meet as many people as I can while I'm here. Thank you very much.
Hello. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, David. Clearly, the roadmap for Unreal Engine is incredible. I especially love that it is adding support not just for games, but features that could be used in games, but can then be extended to other industry verticals too. So with that, thank you so much, David. Dave, we are all of the Epic team is going to be around. There's also an Epic booth at the booth place, not the ghost. There's a booth over there. And you could go there and you could chat with the nice folks over there and get more information. I also want to give a quick shout out to all the folks thanking you for organizing this event. I don't think there is like post the pandemic, this energy that has been like, this is almost the end of the day and there's still like so many people, all bright faces, no tea also, and they're all like amazing. Like, so thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to our community folks too for organizing the big community that we have. So Harish from Chennai, Ashish from Delhi, Gautam from Bangalore, Kabir from Delhi, Praveen from Chennai, Nishit from Mumbai, Kripalu from Mumbai, Rhythm from Delhi. He's actually all India superstar. Vivek from Mumbai, and the rest of the folks who have been organizing the community, the entire Women Creator Program community, for keeping this community alive. And that's what really keeps us all learning about Unreal Engine. So with that, I will let you all go. Thank you so much for being here. And we will, there's a Q&A. So there's now a Q&A session for David, but do you want to give him like nice swag so that he gets some, yeah, there you go. So he got swag. Now he'll answer all your questions. So there you go. David, Q&A.
Does anybody have any questions that we can take here? Right here?
So there was something about mass entities you said. So how much of gameplay ready is it currently? Like it is, I guess it is supporting data oriented, so it must be something like ECS.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, so 5.1 is in preview. The features that are in there, if I mentioned that they were production ready, then you can start integrating them into your actual project. If we said that they're in R&D or we didn't mention that they're production ready, then chances are I would say wait for 5.11 or something for when it comes out of preview and it's gotten its next update before you start integrating anything like that into your project. Any other questions? Right behind the camera here.
I make VFX short films All right, so I make VFX short films, and in one of the recent projects that I was working on, it was a rocket taking off into space. So we experimented a lot with Niagara and stuff to do the exhaust, but ultimately we ended up using Embergen to create the smoke and compositing it later. Are you working on getting the particle systems up to a point where we can get the kind of fidelity that we get out of, say, Embergen?
You're going to get way out of my depth here. So rather than me tell you the wrong answer, I would say that's a question that once we have the technical people around, it's better to answer. Or you can go, if you have UDN access, or into the community site and ask there in particular. If you would like to, you can email me as well, and I can get back to you with the answer to that question from our product team. Would be the best way for me to do it. Again, I work primarily on the business side, and I usually have the tech folks with me to answer those types of questions. So again, feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to get back to you on that.
Cool, will do. Thank you.
Anything else that I can answer while we're here? Yep.
My question is basically on crashes actually. So frequently there will be some crashes when we save the projects and all. Is there any, timeline that a stable version without any crashes regarding? What is your call on that actually?
Are you asking a question about stability?
Stability version, like crashes will be like when we are saving the file, when we are exporting it, automatically
Yeah.
it comes.
Again, that's going to get too technical in nature for what I do. From what I know is all I can say is that we're always working on the stability to make things better. I know that crashing, especially when you're working off the preview versions, like 5.1 right now, you're going to get more of that. You heard us talking about bug fixes and things of that nature, but if you're looking for something very specific about the file after crashing or anything like that, better to talk to one of the tech folks here.
Yeah. So I'm also requesting one option like autosave will be very beneficial for multiple levels, like around 7 to 8 versions of autosave. If it is there, it will be very useful for a developer or a cinematic persons like this.
I can hardly hear you up here. Can you talk louder?
I request an option future in Unreal Engine for autosave of multiple levels. Like it will.
Again, like anything that goes into the tech side about that, we're going to have to bring somebody else in to talk about. If it's anything specific in terms of where we're at with roadmap or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer you. But we do have plenty of other folks here on the tech side who can answer those questions specifically.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, sir. I have one question on MetaSound. Actually, the thing is, for me, since I'm a beginner for Unreal, I still have a little confusion understanding how we should use MetaSound.
So, have you played around with the audio engine in particular?
I have tried, but I'll end up making it even worse.
Again, from what I understand, the best use of the mega sounds, and we have trainers here too who can probably answer those questions, but they're really used for triggering on events, right? So do you want to help me with this one? Do you know the answer here?
Actually, Arvind is the right person.
All right.
Where'd that go?
This is not.
Oh, I'm talking through here.
Hello. Yeah. This is MetaSounds enabled. That is not. what is it? Yeah, so MetaSounds is essentially a node-based editor that allows you to procedurally and author sounds using Unreal Engine. So it's imagine like to be like a material editor, but for sounds. And obviously with MetaSounds, like David said, you could have like event-based triggering, and it provides a lot more control for sounds within the editor itself, and you don't have to go outside the editor. So one of the things that we've been working on is, of course, having folks stay more and more in the editor, so they don't have to keep like alt tabbing or go elsewhere. So
The
that's what-
procedural side of it is one of the real benefits as
That's
well.
right. Yeah, the procedural, like one of the workshops that or talks I did, literally used the existing noise module, and with that was able to create an entire background sound just using like just noise, which is just like shh noise, and start using that. So that's kind of what you could do, and that's what MetaSounds does. Yeah.
So to answer his question though, where would you recommend that a beginner get started for learning more about that?
Contact Maya. She can help you with training. Or we can also go to dev.epicgames.com, which is a place where we have hundreds of hours of video content available for beginners and experts and intermediate folks to start learning all about MetaSounds and the rest of the features that go around it.
Great. That's
So just to add to that, so MetaSounds comes in where, like, see, in games you don't have linear sound, right? Based on where you are in the game, you can't just design a soundtrack like a movie, right? And just have a like linear score. MetaSounds kind of, I think, comes in where you need to, based on the situation or position of the player, you need to pull in different sounds and kind of build an orchestra which is in the game itself. That's how it works. So it's a thought process that needs to change on how sound is done. So it's more like a functional thing that you need to learn first and then see how to implement MetaSound rather than trying to get into the tool itself, right? You need to understand how sound design works for that and how linear sound design is different from procedural sound design. So MetaSounds is all about being procedural and not just linear. That's pretty much what it is.
great. Thank you. Back here.
Hello, thank you for the roadmap presentation, David. I want to ask you that, are there any plans to make Unreal Engine 5.1 to work better with virtual reality side? Because, I'm still using 4.27 for production, and, using Nanite and Lumen will be possible in future.
Yeah, so I
Thank you.
didn't hear part of that, but my
What he's asking is for virtual reality. Essentially,
Yeah.
people are still working with
Okay.
4.27 and not the 5.0.
Right. So I have not seen anything on the roadmap that's dealing with Lumen and Nanite specifically for VR. Most of the plans of what we're working on towards VR are all things that are more about the open usability of features for VR. So OpenXR is our main focus for all things VR. So as things become usable with OpenXR and as the devices probably become more powerful is the better thing, then you'll see more uses for the 5 point whatever features. You have to keep in mind that most of the VR devices are the equivalent of high-end mobile devices at this point, and Lumen and Nanite won't work on a mobile device currently. You could see that happening sometime in the far future with our metaverse plans or anything like that, but it's not on the roadmap anytime in the near future.
We should wait a little bit more then.
Consider it a request, feature request.
Yes, put it in writing as the feature request. We do get a lot of questions around VR and XR and where we are for the future of that. There's plenty of discussions happening within Epic right now about how we look at those things. But as I said too, like a lot of the future of this, you're starting to see these splits, right? Of like high-end VR with the PlayStation 2 VR. You still have the Rift at the high end, and then you have things like the Quest, which are great devices, but they're high-end mobile. So the more that we see, I think, UE development that works better towards mobile, more people working in the mobile space, more people developing even for the Switch, where you can start to see those builds being able to move between devices of that same processing strength. I think you'll see more of those features start to coalesce towards VR.
All right.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.